What's up, guys? It's Graham, and what's cracking? I haven't done a video on this before, but since I've just got a proof copy that came in the mail for my next book, figured I would go over a couple of things with you. Several years ago, when I was at a convention in the author's signing room, somebody came up and started thumbing through my books and looking through them and said, "Hey, I like what you did with the layout here. You did a good job. You avoided a lot of the errors that a lot of indie authors make." And I said, cool, thanks for saying that. That was kind of affirming. I found out later that the man was Jim Mintz, who's one of the big power players over at Baen Books, who, I enjoy being an indie author, but if I was going to tie myself to the expectations of an established publisher, I definitely wouldn't mind working with them. They publish some of my favorite works. I really like their genre, their style, and their ethos. But now that several years have gone by, and I've continued to apply what I did to those first couple of books to other books, I figured, well, why don't I do a quick breakdown in case anybody else is watching this and wanting to learn from it. This book here, Kill the Beast, this was one of the books that Jim was looking through. This right here, Sheriff Porter, is the one that's coming out soon. I did a couple of things different with these two. And this is a final product, this is a rough product, so you're going to see what I'm looking for when I do these. Right off the bat, one of the big differences is I used the matte cover for Kill the Beast. I've done that with every book that I've published until now, but I decided I wanted to try the glossy with Sheriff Porter. You can kind of see the reflection off of it, but I feel like whatever's the difference between the matte finish and the glossy finish, some of the brightness of the colors on the cover, it pops a little bit better than it did with the matte. With my Rebel Heart, Engines of Liberty trilogy, but especially with Rebel Heart, I noticed this happened earlier on. I hired an artist to do those covers because I didn't really have the tools to do it digitally myself. And when he sent me the PDFs of the covers, it looked really bright and really vibrant, but when it printed out on the books, I noticed that it kind of washed out a lot of that detail. There are things that will show through better digitally than they will in print. And that was one reason why, obviously, you've got to be really adamant about paying the couple of dollars that it costs to get your proof covers and making sure that it looks as bright in print as it does on screen. One thing I'm noticing right off the bat is kind of this airbrushing that I did over the text right here. I feel like it eats a little bit too much off the top of Sheriff Porter, so I'm gonna have to go in and clean that up. I also used a different font for the title versus the back. I used Agency FB, and I think I'm gonna use this font for the front. So I'm probably gonna end up changing the text there for the title and the name on it. Another thing here on the spine, I left the lines here. Let's see if we can get that to zero in. I left the lines here from the template just to kind of make sure that I had gotten it centered for the spine. But you can see the cover, the artwork for the cover kind of bleeds around the spine a little bit. That's something I'll have to handle when I get into the program that I used for the art and did the placement for everything. I'll have to move everything just slightly over to one side so that when the next edition prints, the full illustration will stay on the cover. The text will be a little bit higher up because, look, the name is too close to the bottom and the title is too far from the top. Those are minor things that I'll have to toggle. They kind of bug me more than I think they would bug the average reader, but I've stared at this stuff a lot more, so it jumps out at me. One thing else that one other thing that I mentioned on my my update that I did on Indiegogo was that it took me like 4 tries of uploading the file to Amazon's Kindle thing and going through it over and over to make sure that it was all right. And then I figured that it was finally good. The last adjustment that I made was with the top margin, making sure that the header and the footer were the proper distance from the top of the page. Something about that knocked the rest of it all out of whack. Let me find an example here. It ended up gapping something that shouldn't have been gapped. This blank space right here on this page shouldn't be blank. It's this image on the next page that should be under it. That happened again somewhere else. Let me find one of the other images and you can see, oh, here's a great example because it's on 2 pages. The image should be over here. Another thing that I'm noticing is you can kind of see the text of the next page through the image, and I don't think I put enough line weight on the dark lines in the art. They look a little bit too faded. Now I do think that the toner that they used whenever they printed off this edition of the book, the printer might have been near the end of it, because look at the darkness of the text here on Kill the Beast versus the darkness on Sheriff Porter. I think when they printed this copy, it was just kind of running out. And then there's something else you'll see in the images. It was a little bit more apparent here with this first one. I don't know if this is going to show through so much on the camera. Let me find it here. You can kind of see there on Brock. Let me get that to zoom in there. Come on, one more time. Yeah, there are 2 print lines, and there are several other images in the book where that happens as well. So I don't think that's got anything to do with the file that I made. I think that's just more of something that happened on the printing end. The final issue is that I've got, as I often do in my books, I've got an image that's a 2-page spread. Lining that up right is a little bit of a trick because you've got to make sure that it's cut right down the middle and you don't have it too close to the fold in the middle to where you lose some of the image, but not so far apart that the gap is distracting. This right here, the gap looks distracting, but this 2-page image, it got bumped 1 page down. I think that's another gift from me toggling the headers as the last change that I made and not going all the way through. Like it didn't return any errors as far as Amazon detecting margin errors and stuff, but I didn't flip through every single page of the book to make sure the images were aligned. And this should have been, odd page left, even page right, but now the odd page is on the right, and that bumps this 2-page art spread over to the wrong page. So I've got to go through and adjust the file one more time, and this is all stuff that I can now do through the digital viewer. I might not have to order another print copy, but I'm thinking I might go through the art one more time. Like the lines on this one are a little bit more clear, that's fine. But the main takeaway from this for me is that I need to put thicker line weight in with future drawings. And I need to rely less on colored shading, and I need to get better at cross-hatching. The manga for All You Need Is Kill, which is one of my favorite manga, one of my favorite graphic novels that I own, is just excellent. It's superb. Like, I'm fine with a book like that costing kind of a premium price just because the art that you get out of it, it will reward multiple readings and multiple viewings of it. And as long as I'm going to keep doing illustrated books, I need to make sure that I kind of hold myself to that same standard. So I need to do thicker line weight that prints better, prints darker, prints a little bit more clearly, ease off of the shadowing and work on the cross-hatching. And I think as long as they continue to use the weight of paper that they use for printing, I'll just have to rely on that and maybe try to line up my pages so that the images come at the end of the chapter when there's nothing on the next page, and so text doesn't bleed through. These are just things that I have to consider, being an indie guy and having to learn this stuff on my own. That is one of the advantages of working with a traditional publisher, is that they'll have people in-house to handle all of that. Me, I've got some experience with layout and graphic design, and I worked for a couple of years in a sign shop, and that gave me access to software and programs and experience that helped me to recognize this stuff and make my own books better in the physical sense. So that's just some stuff that I've learned doing it this way for the last several years. Hopefully some of that's been a benefit to you. Check the links below if you guys want to grab a copy of some of my books. Kill the Beast is also available on Audible, and the paperback of this is usually around $5 on Amazon. Sometimes the price fluctuates, not because of anything that I'm doing. But the audiobook is also between like $5 and $7 most days, and the narration by Jean-Michel Georges is just perfect. He's a native Parisian. He gets the pronunciation and the accent and all that just perfect. And there's even a little bit of like a musical intro and outro that he did. He composed that himself and put it in. He asked me when he was narrating it, he's like, hey, do you mind if I do something like this and throw it in there? Not at all, bro. Absolutely. Go for it. Merci beaucoup. He did a great job, and I've got a royalty split with him so that whenever a copy of that book sells, until the end of time, he'll get a few extra dollars. I haven't made any changes to that arrangement, so as far as I know, that's still the deal. So check that out and let me know what you think. Till next time, drive safe. See you out there.